Welcome to Amazing Dinosaurs. Today we are facing off all of my Jurassic World green dinosaurs versus my red dinosaurs. Let's first start with a green dinosaur. This is the Giganotosaurus. This figure is a little bit larger than a lot of my T-Rex figures, and it has two action buttons on the back. The first activates this huge chomping and torso twisting action, and the second activates this huge jaw chomping action. So we're gonna put it over here on the left side. Now for the red dinosaurs, this first one, of course, is a huge Tyrannosaurus Rex figure. This is the 93 real feel Tyrannosaurus Rex, so you'll see that it has a soft skin instead of a hard plastic over most of its body. This figure has a small stomach compartment, so you can feed it smaller dinosaurs through its mouth, and it actually has a roar button hidden on its back. So we'll place this figure over on the right side. Now for the green side, I've got another Tyrannosaurus Rex. This is the Legacy Collection T-Rex figure. It's got mostly the dark green coloring, but it does have some gray and yellow on its back and an action button on its head for the chomping action. And so we'll put this right over here. Now for the red side, I've got another Tyrannosaurus Rex. This one has some pretty different coloring compared to the 93 real feel one though. And this one was actually custom colored, so you won't see this type of coloring design anywhere else. And this one has the hard plastic all over its body and the button at the top of its head for chomping. So let's place it over here next to the other red T-Rex. Back to the green side, I've got a dinosaur here that has a little bit of red on it, but it's mostly green, so we're gonna say it's for the green side. This is the Legacy Collection Spinosaurus. You'll see that it is quite a bit bigger than the T-Rex figure over here, and that's actually true to real life. Spinosauruses are quite a bit larger. And like many of the other figures, it has a button on its head for the chomping action. Now let's go ahead and place this over here on the green side. Now for the red side, I've got a T-Rex figure that is one of my oldest ones. This is from Jurassic Park. And this is one of the original T-Rexes that have the real feel skin, so it's a soft rubber over its whole body. And comparing the old with the new, you can see the new one is quite a bit more bright red, but that just might be because this one's older and faded. But all in all, they're actually pretty similar to each other. So let's go ahead and place this over here on the red side. And for the green side, I've got yet another Tyrannosaurus Rex figure. You can tell that I've got quite a few of this species. And this figure is another of the Legacy Collection. This one's a bit older than this one. This one came out pretty recently. So it's got a different hue of green, and it's got the black spots on its back this time. And of course, the button on its head for the chomping action. So let's place this on the green side. Now for the red side, I've got one that's pretty different. This is a Pyroraptor, and it is actually battery operated and a smart dinosaur toy. So let's power it on and let's see what it can do. First, you can touch its head right here and it'll respond to you. You can also touch underneath its chin. That's pretty cool. So it can move around, it can roar, it can chomp, all sorts of really cool things. So then let's place this over here on the red side. Now for the green side, I've got another T-Rex, but this isn't a normal T-Rex. This is actually a hybrid T-Rex from the first Jurassic World movie. So it's got some pretty interesting coloring designs on its body, but best of all, it has a button on its back you can press to activate the spikes coming out of its back and the top of its head too. And there's also that button for the chomping action as well. And let's get it over to the green side here. Now for the green side, I've actually got a very similar Tyrannosaurus Rex figure as the one I just showed you over here. These were made at the same time. This is a hybrid, and this is a normal T-Rex, but it's actually a custom colored one, so it didn't normally have this red coloring. But I think it fits right in with the red dinosaur side, and of course it's got the button on its back for that chomping action too. And now we'll place this right over here on the red side. Next is the Yangchuanosaurus dinosaur. This dinosaur has some bright green coloring over most of its body. It's also got some brown on its back and head, and then the bright orange crest on its head. Plus, you can move the tail back and forth to actually swing the torso back and forth. So we're gonna place the Yangchuanosaurus right over there. Next up is one of my favorite dinosaur species, the Carnotaurus dinosaur. This is actually the Epic Attack dinosaur figure that was released pretty recently, so it's got these two buttons on its side that you can press multiple times for lights and sound effects. And in addition to that, it also has the button on its back for the chomping action. So we're gonna set this right over here on the red side. Now here is the Sinotyrannus dinosaur. And as you can see, it does have some red on it, but most of the color on its body is green, so this will be for the green side. And it's got 2 action buttons on its back. The first is a chomping action for its mouth, and the second is a tail swinging action. So now let's set that and tuck it right in here on the green side. Now here is a cool looking dinosaur. This is a Megaraptor dinosaur. And this figure was released for the Jurassic World Dominion movie. It's got feathering over a lot of its body and these huge claws on its front hands. And when you press down on its back, it's got a chomping action with sound effects too. So let's set it in right there on the red side. And here is an Allosaurus dinosaur. This is another one of my favorite dinosaur species. It's got the green, the white, and a little bit of red on its neck. And it's got this little slide lever action on its back for roaring and different sound effects. Now let's put that right over there. And here's another Carnotaurus figure. This one a little bit smaller than the last for the red side and quite a bit older. I think this was released for the Fallen Kingdom movie. So it's a little bit smaller. It has some purple hues on its back. You can see in that dark color, it's kind of a purplish color. And a single action button on its back for some chomping. Now let's set that right over here. Next up, I've got a pretty different looking one, mainly because it's a quadrupedal dinosaur instead of standing on 2 legs like many of these other dinosaurs. This is the Ouranosaurus dinosaur. And as you can see, it's got this huge lever on its back that you can press for sound effects and for some head movement too. So we're gonna put that right over here on the green side. And here is a recent figure released by Mattel for Jurassic World from the Dino Tracker series. This is the Diabloceratops. It's got these huge horns on its head and at the top of its frill. Look at the size of those things. And it's got an almost all red body. You can see that the underbelly is actually a bit of tan. And it has this little attack feature on its back that's very typical for the Dino Tracker series, where you press it and it moves its head side to side. And let's place it right over here on the red side. Here is a Baryonyx dinosaur in the brown and green coloring. It's a pretty lightweight figure and it has a single action button on its back for chomping its jaw open and closed. Now let's put that right there. And I've actually got a Baryonyx for the red side as well. Although it's kind of a faded red color, it is still definitely red. And this Baryonyx figure in particular is pretty hard to find nowadays, so it's pretty special to have. And it also has that same action button on its back for chomping its jaw open and closed. And we'll put that right over here. For the green side, I've got a Ceratosaurus dinosaur. Almost entirely in green, but it's got some black along the top here. It has the iconic single horn on the top of its nose, and there's an action button on its back for the chomping and sound effects. Now let's place this one right in here. And for the red side, I've got a kind of similar looking dinosaur, but this is actually a Metriacanthosaurus dinosaur. It's got some orange and then mainly red and then some dark brown on its body and a single action button here on its back for chomping its jaw. And we'll place this one right here. Next, I've got a Dilophosaurus dinosaur. Now this is the basic edition of a Dilophosaurus figure, so it's quite a bit larger than usual, but it doesn't have any features other than being able to move its arms, its legs, and its frills back and forth a little bit. So you can have them closed like this, or you can open them up for when it's feeling aggressive or it's on the hunt. And we'll place this one right back here next to the Ouranosaurus. And now here I've got another Pyroraptor figure. This one is not battery operated though, and this is the basic edition. So just like the Dilophosaurus we just saw, there's no special features other than being able to move its arms, its legs, and its tail, but it does have some pretty good detailing. You can see the feathers all over its body. And we'll place this one right here in front of the Baryonyx. Now right up here is a pretty unique looking dinosaur. This is a Majingasaurus. It's got bumps and spikes all over its body, and it's got these tiny front arms, maybe even smaller than a T-Rex's, and you can wiggle the tail back and forth on this figure to move its neck back and forth and up and down. So now let's get this one in line for the green side. This next dinosaur species is called the Ankylosaurus dinosaur. This dinosaur is known for its super hard shell on the top of its back, and check out all these spikes. It's got a lot of brown and tan on it, but its actual body is that red color. And with this figure, if you press down on its back, it actually activates its tail swinging action. Now let's go ahead and get this right up front on the red side. And now I've got a normal Velociraptor figure. This one is from the Amber collection though. I really like this bright green striped coloring over its body. It's got the gray underbelly, and since it's from the Amber collection, it is super posable. It has a bunch of different points of articulation, which is super awesome. So let's set this right up front over here on the green side. And next up is a relative to the Velociraptor. This is an Atrociraptor made for the Jurassic World Dominion movie. And this one is actually a battle damage Atrociraptor, so you can see the slashes right there on its side, and you press this button, and you can't really see it right here, but you can actually hide and reveal the battle damage hidden underneath. There you go, you can kind of see it. Turns bright red for its insides. So let's set that right over here on the red side. And I've actually got an Atrociraptor for the green side as well. This one has some bright yellow-green coloring in the front and then the dark green in the back. And it's got this action button on its back for this head chomping action. And let's put it right over here. Now here's one of the few red winged dinosaurs that I have. This is a Dimorphodon dinosaur. You can see that it's mostly red on the top, but the bottom of its wings actually have some orange and yellow on them as well. Now we're actually gonna put this Dimorphodon on top of the giant Pyroraptor here. Next up is a Monolophosaurus dinosaur with the bright green coloring and then the dark green detailing on the top, and then the dark red right along its nose. And this figure also has an attack feature. When you press down on its tail, it chomps its mouth open and closed. And we'll put this figure over here next to the Majingasaurus. I've got another Velociraptor figure here. This might be my brightest colored Velociraptor yet. It's got the bright green on the top and then the red over the rest of its body with the gray underbelly. And this figure is actually spring-loaded, so you can press down on its legs, and when you release, it'll jump up into the air. Let's see how high we can get it. I don't know how high these get. Pretty high. That's a pretty cool feature. So now we'll place the Velociraptor right over here. And here's one of my smallest T-Rex figures that I have in my collection. This is from the first Jurassic World movie. Its whole body is this bright green color. You can see it's got some battle damage on its side right there. And with this figure, you can move the tail up and down and back and forth to actually get some pretty lifelike movements with it too. And we'll set this T-Rex in right in front up here. And here's our final red dinosaur of the collection. This is a mini dinosaur. It kind of looks similar to an Ankylosaurus because they both have the spikes and then the armor plating on the top of their body. But this one is a whole lot smaller. But overall, it is a pretty cool looking dinosaur. So we're gonna place this right over here. And as the final one for the green side, I've got another Velociraptor. But this one is pretty special because it is actually in a stalking or sneaking pose. So it is crawling super close to the ground. That's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool pose to have for a figure. And there you have it, the green dinosaurs versus the red dinosaurs. Which of these red dinosaurs was your favorite? Let me know in the comments below. And which of these green dinosaurs was your favorite? Comment below. Let's get started with these super colossal figures. This is the Jurassic World Dominion T-Rex with the dark brown coloring and the black detailing along its body. The other super colossal T-Rex I have selected for this collection is a custom colored one. Check out this light blue coloring and the dark red eyes. And this T-Rex figure is definitely a lot older than the Dominion T-Rex figure. And we're gonna stand them together on the T-Rex side. And now for the I-Rex side. This is the super colossal I-Rex figure. I believe was released as part of Camp Cretaceous. It's got a whole lot more bumps and texturing compared to the T-Rex figures, and I love its teeth. And that figure is gonna go over here on the I-Rex side. And next up, why don't we open up the brand new Dino Trackers Indominus Rex. Now this new I-Rex figure is very interesting. It's actually quite a bit smaller than many of my other I-Rex figures. You can see the barcode scanner right there for the app, so you can check that out on your phone. Of course, it's still got the same coloring and detailing as many of the other I-Rex figures, but this one has a feature that I don't know I've ever seen before. It has the button on its tail to activate the chomping. But check that out, there's some glowing green lights inside. That's pretty cool. So now let's set this on the I-Rex side, right in front of the Super Colossal. Now let's go over here to our bin and grab another T-Rex. We're first gonna go with this one. I believe this is a Camp Cretaceous battle damage T-Rex. They actually released another one for Jurassic World Dominion that's pretty similar, other than it has different coloring. But these figures are pretty cool because they've got the huge battle damage on the side that you can turn on and off with the click of a button. That's pretty cool. And we're gonna place this right underneath the Dominion T-Rex. Now back to the I-Rexes, we're gonna grab this camouflage I-Rex one. This one looks pretty wild. Now this one is actually a custom colored I-Rex. So all this coloring you can see here was done in detail by someone that I bought from on eBay. Even the blood on its mouth too. That's pretty awesome. Now let's find a place for it on the I-Rex side. How about way there in the back? There we go. Now back to the T-Rexes, we're gonna go with this big figure. This is the Terran T-Rex. This Jurassic World T-Rex has the classic brown coloring over most of its body and a slightly lighter underbelly. You can see it's got some hidden battle damage along its face. It looks like those are kind of scars. That's pretty cool. But the special feature of this figure is the button on its back, which causes a huge tearing action. And not only that, but there's another button on its back to swing the tail back and forth too. So now let's set this on the T-Rex side, and we're gonna have it go way in the back over here. And this T-Rex is really face to face with that I-Rex figure. Next, let's grab this huge I-Rex figure right here. This is the Battle Damage Edition I-Rex. Check out the size difference between this one and the Dino Tracker I-Rex that I just bought. This one might be twice the size of that one. And it's still got all the cool texturing and spikes and detailing. Plus it has the battle damage on its side that you can turn on and off. Now let's set this one in the back here, right next to the Super Colossal I-Rex. For the T-Rexes, we're gonna go with the Jurassic World Dominion version. Now this T-Rex figure looks very similar to the Dominion Super Colossal figure right here. You can tell that this was the color theme that they were going for that film. And like many other T-Rex figures, it has the tail that can move the torso around, as well as open and close the jaw. We're gonna put this one right next to the older Super Colossal T-Rex. Let's dive back in here. This other giant T-Rex figure is one of the classic I-Rexes. This Jurassic World figure is pretty similar to the battle damage one way back here, except that it doesn't have the battle damage on the side. Instead, it has a button right on its back used for slashing its claws. Plus, of course, you can use the button on the tail to activate the jaw. And we're gonna set this one right next to the battle damage I-Rex. This is the Stomp and Escape T-Rex from Jurassic World. And this figure is built a little bit differently than a lot of the other T-Rex figures. You can see that its legs actually have different joints, as well as this big joint right in its torso. And I'll show you what that does. So it has this really cool action where it lifts up its head to roar. And the other cool part is that you can actually twist the tail to get stomping action with sound effects. So that's why those weird looking joints are right there. And of course, this T-Rex figure is gonna go on the T-Rex side. This next one is a pretty special I-Rex figure. This is a hybrid edition I-Rex. Now this Jurassic World figure actually came out for the first Jurassic World movie and was made by Hasbro instead of Mattel, who makes many of the newer figures now. It's got some crazy coloring on its arms and its underbelly and feet, and the bright red along its back and its head too. Plus there's a hidden action button on its side that you can press to activate more spikes on its back. So now let's set this on the I-Rex side, right on the front lines. Now right here is that Jurassic World Dominion battle damage T-Rex that I was telling you about earlier. Now let's compare it to the earlier version that they released, and they're pretty similar in shape and size. I wouldn't be surprised if they're actually the exact same figure, but with different coloring. And this Dominion version is a much more like orange-brown coloring over all of its body, but it's still got the battle damage on its side. Now let's set up this T-Rex right next to the others. This next I-Rex figure is pretty unusual actually. It looks totally different than many of the other figures. This figure is still made by Mattel, but I believe it's from the Imaginext line. So it looks to be like a figure for a slightly younger audience. But it has one of the most unique attack actions that I've ever seen. When you move its tail up and down, it actually swings its torso in all sorts of directions. That's pretty cool. That is very unique too. So let's go ahead and set it down on the I-Rex side. This T-Rex figure is another extreme damage T-Rex, but it is not like the others. And that's because it does not have the battle damage opening on the side that you can press a button, but rather it has this painting all over its body for the battle damage. And other than that, it has a very orange coloring with the darker brown on top. And let's set it in the back here next to the Dominion T-Rex. This I-Rex figure is another one made by Hasbro for the first Jurassic World movie. And it sure is quite a bit different. First off, it's got this real feel skin along its neck and on the top of its head. And instead of having a chomping button on its tail, you can actually move its arm to open and close its mouth. And you can kind of tell on its back that it has lights underneath whenever you move its arm, but it's pretty faint, so you can't really tell when it's light out. But nonetheless, let's set it down on the I-Rex side here. For the T-Rex side, we're gonna go with another figure that was released for the first Jurassic World movie, made by Hasbro. This smaller T-Rex figure is a light tan color, much lighter than the Dominion damaged T-Rex back there. And it looks pretty different in design too. It has a much longer head, a smaller body, and it has a single action button on its back for the chomping action. Now this figure is pretty old, so it doesn't work as well, but we're gonna put it right next to the extreme battle damage T-Rex on this side. Up next, we've got the Feeding Frenzy Indominus Rex figure. This figure is a whole lot smaller than a lot of the Indominus Rex figures we've seen so far, but it still has a pretty large face for how small its body is. And it's got some unique special features. First, there's this button on its nose that you can get some sound effects from. Then you can move its tail to open up its mouth. Then you can feed this Indominus Rex by pressing down on its mouth, and it'll chomp its mouth closed. Now let's set this I-Rex right on the front lines against the T-Rexes. This next figure is a classic T-Rex, I think was released for the second Jurassic World movie, which is Fallen Kingdom. It's got the classic brown body with a darker top and a button at the top of its head for the chomping and roaring action. And we're gonna put this guy right on the edge because we're running out of space for all these T-Rexes. This is the Sound Surge Indominus Rex figure released for Jurassic World Dominion. It's pretty basic in design. It has the same coloring as all the rest, but its one big feature is that it has this speaker on its side and this button on the top for the sound effects. Let's place this dino right behind the Feeding Frenzy I-Rex. And I've actually got the Sound Surge edition for the T-Rex as well. It's actually a little bit smaller than the I-Rex figure, but it still has the button on its top for the sound effects. And we're gonna place this one on the front lines of the T-Rex side. This next figure is an even smaller I-Rex figure. This is from the first Jurassic World movie as well. It has some battle damage on its side that you can open and close, and you can use the tail on this figure to move the head and chomp its mouth. Now let's place this kind of in the back for the I-Rex side. We're getting down to just a few T-Rexes left. This is a Lego T-Rex figure for Jurassic World. It has kind of similar coloring compared to the Jurassic World regular figures with the brown, and it's got some darker brown detailing along its body. So why don't we place this right up front here next to the Sound Surge T-Rex. I've also got the Lego I-Rex figure. This one, interestingly, is actually a similar color to the Lego T-Rex over here, instead of the classic gray coloring for the I-Rex. I think that makes it pretty cool. Plus, it has some really cool teeth. They're pretty unique, I think. Check that out compared to the T-Rex over here. And here's the I-Rex's teeth. And our next T-Rex figure is a super small green T-Rex figure from the first Jurassic World movie. It's got a pretty large face for its size. It has some battle damage right on the side of its body, and you can use the tail to chomp the head and move the head back and forth too. Let's set this up right next to the Lego T-Rex. And here is our final I-Rex. This, I believe, is the Bite and Thrash Indominus Rex. Now, similar to this T-Rex that we just saw a moment ago, this one has the battle damage right on the side, and you can use the tail to move the head up and down and chomp the jaws. And we're actually gonna leave this figure right here, right in front of the Lego I-Rex. And here is our final figure of this collection. It is a juvenile T-Rex figure. It has a light green body with a darker brown accenting on its back, and you can use the tail to chomp the mouth open and closed, which is pretty cool considering how small this figure is. Now the full collection is set up. Who do you think would win in this battle? The T-Rexes or the I-Rexes? First up is one of the figures I'm most proud of. This is a custom colored Atrociraptor, and I painted this myself. Went with the yellow and orange sides and the brown striped top. And I put in those red eyes too. I'm super proud of this. Next up, we've got the Tiger Velociraptor from the Amber collection. This is a larger Velociraptor compared to a lot of the Raptor figures in here. And of course, it's got that orange striped back and super posable body. Here is a huge Pyroraptor figure. This is the basic edition from Jurassic World Dominion. It's got feathers all over its body, even on its tail, and it's got a cool looking crown on the top of its head, made of feathers as well. This is a Mega Raptor from Jurassic World Dominion, so this is quite a new figure as well. It's got the red and dark blue body and the lighter detailing on the top of its head. Plus, when you press down on its back, it has a chomping action with sound effects. Here is Velociraptor Echo from the Amber collection. Once again, a larger Velociraptor figure compared to normal, super posable, and it's got some awesome coloring and detailing all over its body. Here is an older Velociraptor figure. It's still Jurassic World, not Jurassic Park, but it's quite old. I think it might have come out during the first movie. It's got the tan body with the green striping on top, and it's pretty limited with what you can do and what you can move around, so they've definitely come a long way. Back here is another super old Jurassic World Velociraptor figure. Once again, pretty large, and this one actually has an action that when you press down on its tail, it swings its arms back and forth. Plus, it has a battle damage button right there. I don't think it works anymore, but normally it would light up and it would have sound effects as well. Now here is a really old Velociraptor figure. This is from Jurassic Park. It's got this orange striped body, and this one used to have an action that when you pressed on its leg, it would move its neck forward, but it's really old, so it doesn't work anymore. Check it out, we've got another Pyroraptor figure. This one is a lot smaller. It's still got the same coloring with the black on its body and the red, and this one actually has an extreme battle damage feature on its side that you can turn on and off. Here's a huge Atrociraptor figure. This one is the light colored with the brown striping, actually the same color as this super colossal figure that you see over in the corner. And of course, it's got those super cool looking red eyes. Next up, we've got the Velociraptor Blue figure from the Amber collection. This figure is super posable. It has the iconic coloring for Velociraptor Blue, and it actually has a bendable tail. It's like slightly rubber, but you can actually pose it and bend it in different ways, which is pretty cool. Here is a smaller Velociraptor figure. This is from Jurassic World Dominion. It's got the light body with the dark blue coloring on top, and it has an extreme battle damage feature on its side that you can turn on and off. Here's another Pyroraptor figure. This one is super posable. You can move its neck in all directions, you can move its legs, and you can even twist its tail as well. It's a bit darker colored than the other Pyroraptor figures that I have. This is Velociraptor Charlie from the Amber collection. It's got the bright green body with stripes, the gray underbelly, and a headpiece right on top of its head. Here is another vintage Velociraptor figure. This might be one of the oldest Velociraptor figures that I have. Check it out, it's got the 3 tones of color and the yellow eyes too. Back here, we've got some basic Velociraptor figures. These both are identical. They are the orange and brown with the yellow eyes. You can't open the jaws, but you can move the arms, the legs, and the tails. And I've also got another basic figure back here that is Velociraptor Blue. And this figure also has the same features. You can move the arms, the legs, and the tail, but you can't open the jaw or move the neck or anything like that. Back here, we've got some more super old Jurassic World figures. I think these might be from the first or the second movie. This first one is brown with gray striping and is pretty limited with the movements. You can't even open and close the mouth. And there's also this old Jurassic World Velociraptor with the same limited movements, and it looks like it's stuck in a roaring pose or something like that. Down here, it looks like we've got some super bright Velociraptor figures. These are all pretty brightly colored and differently colored. I've got a teal green Velociraptor with these spring-loaded legs, so you can actually launch it into the air. Same with this one, is actually spring-loaded as well, but it is super bright red and bright green. And finally, there's this slightly more muted green Velociraptor, but it has an action button on its back that you can use to move its arms. Next, I think this is my final Amber Collection Velociraptor. This is Velociraptor Delta with the teal blue coloring with all the darker specks along its body and is super posable, just like the other Amber Collection figures. I've got another older Jurassic World Velociraptor here with the brown and gray striping, and just like the other older figures, it's pretty limited in its movement, so it's stuck with its mouth open like that. These are Atrociraptor figures. I've got a tan and brown one that is in the sneaking pose and is pretty adjustable. It can open its mouth and move its neck and its limbs. And I've also got this white and brown Atrociraptor, just like the super colossal one that you see over there. And it is pretty posable as well. It's even got those orange-red eyes. These Velociraptor figures both have an extreme battle damage on the side that you can open and close. Check that out. And this one is Velociraptor Blue with the extreme battle damage. Looks like I've got a few more Velociraptor Blue figures in here. It is the most popular Velociraptor after all. This one is this spring-loaded version, so you can launch it into the air as if it's jumping. And this one is the normal version of Velociraptor Blue. Check out another vintage Jurassic Park Velociraptor. This is JP10, so it might be a little bit more recent than the JP06 one that we saw earlier. And it has totally different coloring too. It's got the orange and the red on top. And we've got another handful of Velociraptors in here, all with different colors. This first one, I believe, is my most recent one. It is part of the Jurassic World Dominion series. It has some really cool coloring along the top. I've also got this really cool bright red and purple striped Velociraptor, as well as a normal brown Velociraptor with reflective green eyes, and this blue Velociraptor with bright yellow along the top. And over here, I've got another small Atrociraptor figure with the bright orange coloring and the tan striping all over its body. And let's not forget these super colossal Velociraptor figures I had in the back here the whole time. This one is black with brown striping, and it's got a really cool looking eye. And there is also super colossal Velociraptor Blue with the blue stripe down the sides and the lighter underbelly, and those same really cool eyes. And also this super colossal Atrociraptor that came out for Jurassic World Dominion. The first dinosaur figure is the Stomp and Escape T-Rex. As you can see, the original painting was brown with some gray detailing on top, so let's see if we can spice that up a little bit. After I got it all primed up, I started with a soft tan color for the underbelly, which is typical for what you'd see in many T-Rex figures. Next, and my favorite part of this T-Rex, I painted the upper body, the head, and legs a jungle green color. I'm super excited for this one as I don't have that many green T-Rexes yet. I think I only have one other. I wanted to make this dinosaur figure look pretty realistic with a camouflage and natural look, so I took a lot of care to blend in the green into the tan for this one. Then, to bring some texture to all those green parts, I dry brushed a soft brown color to bring out all the texture and wrinkles of its skin. For the mouth, I chose a dark pink color. Looks like I forgot to prime some of the mouth. Whoops. Then for the darkest color of this T-Rex, I chose a dark brown to go from the top of the head all the way down to the tail. This will be the last major color for this dinosaur. I also used the brown to paint down the side of the body in random patterns and stripes to make it look a little more realistic, as well as on the front of the legs, which I really thought brought the whole body together. And of course, I brought some of that dark brown onto the face too, especially around the eyes to give it more shading and detail. Then I took a brush and dry brushed a light gray color onto all the brown areas to give that a little bit more texture. I think this made it look a whole lot more realistic and looks a lot better than just the flat brown color. Then for the eyes, after I added another white base, I painted the eyes a yellow color with narrow pupils. I wanted this T-Rex to look intimidating, but not too scary. And for the final touches, I painted the teeth sparkling white and the nails a dark, dark black. And there we are, it is all done. I'm really happy with this T-Rex, and like I said, I'm super excited to add another green T-Rex to my collection. Next up is the Atrociraptor figure from the new Jurassic World Dominion series. This figure has the iconic coloring already. I'm sure you recognize it from the movie, but I wanted to replace it with something much more bright and eye-grabbing. So to start it off, I colored the entire dinosaur in a bright yellow color. This will be the base coat for my design. For the next layer, I chose an orange color to paint along the top of the yellow from the head all the way to the tip of the tail. And also on parts of the legs and the arms. It's a pretty similar color to the yellow because I want it to smoothly fade from the yellow into the orange and to the next color that I'll be adding on. Next, for the coolest and most dramatic color of this dinosaur, I added brown to the very top of the body and around the eyes, and I added random stripes going down the sides of the body. It's a pretty dramatic look, and I'm really happy with how it came out. Now that all the big colors are done, I took a lighter brown color and dry brushed all along the lighter parts of its body. Look at how it brings out the texture of its skin all over. For the final touches, I painted all the claws black and the eyes blood red. These dinosaurs are pretty scary in the movie, and I think red eyes are the perfect color to reflect that. That, the Atrociraptor, is all done. Look at how bright it is. This is one of my favorite dinosaurs that I've painted, and I really think it'll pop out from all the other dinosaur figures on my display shelf. Next up is the Jurassic World Dominion Triceratops. The original had a green and brown color combo, and I wanted to switch that up with something entirely different. First, to start off, I painted the belly and the entire underside a light pink color. What color do you think I'm going to combo this color with? If you guessed gray, then you are correct. I had seen a Stegosaurus figure painted a similar way and wanted to try it out for myself. I used this gray to color the entire rest of the body. I'll be doing a few more colors throughout though. Next, to add some more variance to its body, I used a darker gray color all along the top of the body and along the top of the bony frill behind its head. I'm really happy with how this frill is turning out. I chose a light tan color for the horns and the mouth. This is pretty similar to the original. Since these are bony parts of the body, I just think that this color works great with it. I chose a white color for all the toes on its feet and a green color for its tiny little eyes. This is a really tricky part because they're so small, but I think it turned out pretty good. And just a tiny little black dot for the pupils in its eyes. Now for the best part, I chose a bright red color for the bony parts sticking out of its frill because I wanted these to stand out and be the highlight of this Triceratops. I wanted to bring a little bit more red to the body as well, so I also dry brushed that same red color onto the back of the Triceratops. It's pretty subtle though, it's only just enough to make it look a tiny bit more red. And that's it! This one turned out super cool. I really like how the light pink, the gray, and the red all fit together. This is the Sarcophagus figure from Jurassic World. It's not too bad with the painting originally, but let's see if we can spice it up a bit. I started by painting the belly a lime green color. Many dinosaurs, as I'm sure you've noticed already, have lighter underbellies. Next, I painted a camo green color to the sides. This will help it blend into a swamp or jungle setting. Then for the very top of the dinosaur, I chose a dark brown color. And this color went all the way to the tip of the tail. I bet if this dinosaur was in the water, other dinosaurs probably wouldn't even see it because it looks like a log in the water. I also added some brown detailing around the eyes to help bring out the color of the eyes when I paint those in. Next, I painted the mouth a soft pink color. Then I added a darker pink wash to bring out the texture of the tongue and the other parts of the mouth. I'm a really big fan of dry brushing or adding a wash to a figure because this really brings out a lot of the texture. Then I chose a dark gray wash to add to the top of the dinosaur to bring out more texture there, although it is pretty subtle. I think it makes it look just a little bit more gritty, a little more dirtier like it would in real life. Then I added a brown wash to the belly and underside of the dinosaur to bring out the texture of that area and to make it look a bit more gritty too. Then I carefully painted all of the claws black. These weren't colored differently in the original version, but I wanted to bring more attention to them. And now for the super tricky part, painting the teeth. I chose a bright white color and I had to do multiple layers. I couldn't even count how many teeth there were on this Sarcophagus. And finally, I painted the eyes a bright white color to pop out from that brown background, and I chose to give this dinosaur narrow pupils as well. And there it is all finished. This is a super camouflaged dinosaur, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. This is the Jurassic World Dominion Pyroraptor figure. As you can see, originally it had some pretty basic coloring, nothing too special, it's just mostly red and black. So to start with my own design for this figure, I painted the feet, the hands, and some parts of the face a light gray color. These are parts of the dinosaur that didn't have that many feathers on them, so it's more of just a skin coloring. Now for the best part, I chose a bright fiery red for the bulk of the feathered body. In my opinion, this dinosaur is not meant to blend into its surroundings, so I really want to make it pop.
I painted this red all over the torso, the tail, the arms, and a little patch on the leg, right there where you can see the feathers. For the remaining parts of the body, I wanted to try a dark blue color to contrast that fiery red. I used this blue on the legs, on the belly, a little bit of the underside of the tail, and on the top of the head. Now, one thing I especially wanted to do was bring out the texture of those feathers all over its body. So I used a dark brown gray wash and I put that all over the red to really accentuate those feather designs. Then I blended the gray color of the skin into the other colors and also dry brushed the gray into the blue parts to bring out the texture of those areas. Those blue parts were pretty dark before, but with that gray on top, you can really see the texture. Next, I dry brushed a subtle yellow color near the neck to add some variance in the color, just enough to make it look different from the rest of the body. And for those huge feathers on the top of the head, I chose orange as a complementary color to the rest of the red, and I added a little bit of yellow at the top to bring out more texture of that big feather on the top. To match that feather on the top of its head, I used yellow for the eyes. And once again, I painted narrow black pupils to give it a more menacing look. For the final touch, I painted all the claws dark black for contrast and the teeth a bright white, since those weren't actually colored at all in the original version. And we're done! This is a pretty bright and wild looking dinosaur and totally different from the other ones I've painted so far, and quite a bit different from the original version.
First that we're gonna check out is, of course, the Tyrannosaurus Rex. How could this dinosaur not be in the next Jurassic World movie? And this specific T-Rex figure is actually from the last movie called Jurassic World Dominion. The next dinosaur that I think will be in Jurassic World 4 is the Spinosaurus. This is actually the Camp Cretaceous figure, and it is even a little bit larger than the T-Rex figure. Also, I really hope that they bring back the Indominus Rex. This new dinosaur was made known from the first Jurassic World movie, and this figure is actually the battle damage edition, meaning with this button right here, you can actually hide the battle damage on the side. And there's a button on its tail for the roaring action. Next up for my predictions, I've got the huge Giganotosaurus figure. We saw this dinosaur in the last Jurassic World Dominion movie, and this figure is actually the super colossal Giganotosaurus, so as you can see, it is way larger than any of the other figures that I have. Up next is the mighty Mosasaurus figure. This dinosaur was from the first Jurassic World movie, and I think it is one of the best aquatic dinosaurs that they've shown, so I hope they bring it back. And with this Mosasaurus figure, you can move all the fins around and open and close the jaw. Over here, we've got another T-Rex figure. This is a Battle Edition T-Rex. I think it might be from Camp Cretaceous, and you can see that it's got some battle damage slashes right on its side. Plus, the figure is fully posable with its arms, legs, tail, neck, and its head, and it has a button to chomp the jaw. Up next for my Jurassic World 4 predictions is the Therizinosaurus. This dinosaur had an epic battle in the Jurassic World Dominion movie, and I wouldn't be surprised if they brought it back again for another fight. This figure has a fully posable body and an attack button on its tail. Over here, we've got the Carnotaurus, one of my favorite carnivores. This figure features posable legs and arms, and an attack tail that moves its head and chomps its jaw. This is another T-Rex figure, but this is actually an older figure, I think from the first Jurassic World movie. It has a fully tan body, other than a little bit of gray on its face, and it features posable arms, legs, and an attack button on its back for chomping. I think Jurassic World 4 might also have a Pentaceratops. This is one massive dinosaur and it has one of the biggest frills that I've seen. And this figure has two buttons, one for a head ramming action and the other for a torso swinging action. Here's another herbivore figure. This is a Sinoceratops. Jurassic World has a few different versions of this figure. This is in the light gray with some tan and yellow detailing, and it features an attack tail that moves its head. My next prediction is another awesome predator. This is an Allosaurus. I believe this figure was released with Camp Cretaceous, and it features posable arms, legs, and tail, and has a slide lever action on its back for roaring and chomping. Right over here is another Allosaurus figure. I believe this one was released, I think, from Fallen Kingdom. And this Allosaurus features a dark gray body with yellow detailing. It has posable arms and legs, and a single button on its back for the chomping action. All right, let's dig into these brand new ones that I just bought. This first box has a Scorpiovenator and an Iguanodon. These are part of the Dino Trackers Roarin' Battle Pack. Here is the Scorpiovenator. I have one other Scorpiovenator figure, but this is a whole new color scheme. It's got dark brown, some orange, and then the light underbelly. Plus, it has a chomping action. And here is the Iguanodon figure. I have a few other Iguanodon figures that look pretty similar to this, but once again, this has totally different coloring. This one features a mostly tan body with the brown detailing along the top of its body. And of course, you can press down on its body for a roaring action. Next up to open up from my brand new figures is this Hammond Collection Ankylosaurus. And let's attach that tail. All right, this figure is looking quite a bit different from many of my other Ankylosaurus figures. First off, it's a bit larger than many of my other Ankylosauruses, and it has much more natural coloring with the dark green on top and the lighter underbelly. But best of all, like all of the Hammond Collection figures, this figure is super posable. It looks like its tail has 3 or 4 different joints, so you can move it around in a really lifelike way. Of course, you can move the legs around and pose them in all sorts of ways. And coolest of all, you can move its head around and even open and close its mouth. And next up is the Hammond Collection Dilophosaurus. And here it is. So once again, it is very posable all over its body. And best of all, this figure actually features a removable frill. So you can actually take it off and replace it with this little piece as if the frills are closed. Next up over here, I've got the Sound Surge Indominus Rex figure. This figure is a lot smaller than many of my other I-Rexes. I also think Jurassic World might have a Scorpius Rex in it. This figure is quite large and it features 2 attack buttons, one for the jaw and one for arm slashing. And of course, what would be a Jurassic World movie without a Stegosaurus in it? This figure features the brown body with some green and tan detailing, and it has the attack feature where you can swing its tail. I also hope that Jurassic World 4 has some Baryonyxes in it. This Baryonyx is a bright green color with some brown detailing, and of course has a roar action. And I also have this older Baryonyx figure from Fallen Kingdom with the orange highlight on the top of its head. Here's another dinosaur specifically from the older Jurassic World movies. This is an Endoraptor. This is the basic figure, so you can move its arms, its legs, and its tail. Next up, I've got a Carcharodontosaurus figure. This one is in the light tan yellow coloring with some brown and orange detailing, and it has an attack button on its back for chomping its jaw. Here I've got another Dilophosaurus figure. This figure is a lot larger than the Hammond Collection version, and it is the basic version, so you can move its frills back and forth, as well as its arms, its legs, and its tail. Jurassic World 4 has got to have some winged dinosaurs too. This is a Pteranodon, and this figure features the orange coloring along its wings and the brown body. Here's another dinosaur from Jurassic World Dominion that I think might show up again. It's an Atrociraptor, and this figure is the basic edition, so you can move its arms, its legs, and its tail. Here's another Ankylosaurus figure. You can see that it's quite a bit smaller than the Hammond collection, and it still has some pretty realistic coloring with the green and the gray and the brown. Plus, there's an action button on this one for swinging the tail. Next up is another Dilophosaurus figure, but this one is battery operated, so let's hear some sounds from it. This figure over here is an old Velociraptor figure from the first Jurassic World movie. It features posable legs and posable arms. Next up, also from the Jurassic World Dominion movie, is this basic Pyroraptor figure. And I really hope they bring this one back for the 4th movie. This Pyroraptor is the basic figure, so you can move its arms, its legs, and its tail. Over here, I've got another Indominus Rex figure. This one is older, and I believe was called the Bite and Thrash Indominus Rex. Check it out, another Ankylosaurus figure. This one features much brighter coloring all over its body and has a slide lever action on its back to swing its tail around. This figure set is from Jurassic World Dominion. It features a Parasaurolophus and Owen with his lasso. Up next is another Pteranodon figure. This one is a whole lot smaller, but it has some pretty cool detailing along its wings and a button on its back for flapping the wings. And of course, one that I'm pretty sure that they'll have in the next movie is Velociraptor Blue. And not only that, but we also saw Velociraptor Beta in the last movie as well. So I think that they'll be bringing these Velociraptors back. I've also got a few more Velociraptor figures in here. This first one has a light green body with a darker detailing along the top and features posable arms, legs, and a mouth. And this second Velociraptor features a dark gray body with yellow detailing and the posable arms, legs, and jaw. My next prediction is a Stygimoloch dinosaur. This figure specifically is pretty small and has a dark body, but some dark purple coloring along its neck and its head, and it features a headbutting action when you press down on the tail. We saw some Apatosaurus figures in the last movie, but I think that they might bring back the Brachiosaurus dinosaurs. This figure is a baby Brachiosaurus and has a light green body with a darker green along the top and has a posable jaw, neck, and legs. Over here is another Parasaurolophus figure. I believe this one is also from Jurassic World Dominion, and it features a posable head, arms, and legs. I've predicted a few other horned dinosaurs, but I think Jurassic World will also have Triceratops dinosaurs in it. This figure is a lot smaller than many of the other horned dinosaurs that I have, and it features battle damage that you can open and close on the side. And here is another Atrociraptor figure. This one's a lot smaller than the one that we saw earlier, but it has a darker red coloring with the gray detailing, and it has battle damage that you can open and close on the side. Right over here is a miniature Dilophosaurus figure. It has the brown body with the blue detailing, and it still has the frills on the front that you can open and close. And last of all is a teeny tiny Spinosaurus figure. It still has the giant spine on its back, and it has a chomping action as well.
This figure right here is the largest Dominion figure that I have. This is the Dreadnoughtus figure, and it is super long. It's probably 3 or 4 feet in length, but it still has some really cool features. You can even open and close the mouth and twist the head around too. So let's put this dinosaur on the very far left as the biggest dinosaur. Let's see, what super colossal figure is next? It's a tough call, but I think the Giganotosaurus might be the next largest. This figure is huge, has a classic green coloring, the awesome super sharp spine, and the really cool teeth. These are pretty unique. Let's set this super colossal Giganotosaurus down right next to the Dreadnoughtus figure. These are our 2 largest figures.
Next up has got to be our super colossal T-Rex with the new brown and black coloring. You won't see this on older Jurassic World figurines. This one is super cool. Let's put this right next to our giant Giganotosaurus figure. Next is this awesome Atrociraptor figure. This one is the white with 2 different tones of brown striping along its back and sides. And unlike the other super colossal figures we've seen so far, the teeth are actually fully inside the mouth compared to the other figures we've seen so far where the teeth are on kind of like the outside of the mouth. All right, there we go. Let's move on to the next biggest, which is this tall Brachiosaurus figure from Jurassic World Dominion. Let me stand it up. Now this dinosaur is a lot taller than these other dinosaurs right here, but its body is a bit smaller and it's just shorter in size overall. So that's why I'm putting it over here. But it's got some pretty cool detailing, the blue coloring around its head. And next up in size is this giant Apatosaurus figure. Check out the size difference between this one and the Brachiosaurus over here. It's a little bit shorter, it's still standing on all 4 legs, and it has a really long neck, but instead of going up super tall like that one, this one kind of sticks out forwards more. All right, now we're moving on to our slightly smaller figurines. We're gonna start with this T-Rex, which has the identical coloring as the super colossal figure right over there. This is a really cool T-Rex. I like the features on this one, and this one has a ginormous head compared to older Jurassic World T-Rexes. Right over here, we've got the Hammond Collection Tyrannosaurus Rex figure. This one has some really cool orange-brown coloring. It has a lot more detail than many of the other Jurassic World T-Rexes. It even has marbled eyes. Check out all that texture. And these figures are super posable too, which is an awesome feature. Next, we've got this Thrashing Giganotosaurus figure in the same coloring as the super colossal figure over here. They look pretty similar. This one's quite a bit smaller, although it's still probably around 1 foot in length from tail to head. So let's set this down right next to the T-Rex figure. All right, what do we go with next here? I think next is this Allosaurus figure. This figure is a little bit smaller than the T-Rexes and the Giganotosaurus figure here, but it is a lot larger than a lot of my other Allosaurus figures. Plus, it has a battle damage feature right on its side that you can open and close. Let's get this standing right next to the Giganotosaurus. The next up in size is the Therizinosaurus figurine, which was really cool in the Dominion movie. So we're gonna set this down right next to the Allosaurus figure. And check out those huge claws on its hand and the really long neck with the big face at the very top. We've got another herbivore dinosaur next in size here. This is the Stegosaurus with some pretty cool coloring. It's got the brown, some lighter tan, green, and then the clay red at the very top. All right, let's set it down next to the Therizinosaurus. Look at those spikes. They're a little bit taller than the Therizinosaurus, although if this was standing up all the way, it would definitely be a lot taller. Here is the Yangchuanosaurus figure. This, I don't think, was in the new Jurassic World Dominion movie, but it came out as part of the toy line. It's got some really cool coloring. It's got an action that lets you move the neck around in a lifelike way. And you know what? I think it is actually a little bit bigger than the Stegosaurus. So let's shift the Stegosaurus over and put this dinosaur right there. Next is a really interesting looking dinosaur. This is the Ankylosaurus. It's got the clay red coloring with the brown top, a super long neck, and it stands on 4 legs. Let's put this right next to the Stegosaurus figure. I can't quite tell which one is the next largest, but I'm gonna go with the Rajasaurus figure in the blue and gray coloring. And it's got that cool little spike right at the top of its head. Now let's set it right next to the Ankylosaurus. Let's see if it stands up. I think its legs are kind of broken, so that'll have to do. Here is the Sound Surge Giganotosaurus figure. Once again, it has pretty similar coloring as the super colossal figure right here, and this one comes with sound effects as well. It's pretty cool, so let's set this right next to the Rajasaurus figure. The next in size, I think, is this Pyroraptor figurine. This is the basic edition, but it still has the cool fiery red coloring and the black on its tail, on its legs, and a little bit on its head too. Let's set them down right here. And very close in size to the Pyroraptor is this basic Atrociraptor figure in the same coloring as the super colossal figure that we have back here. So let's go down all the way to the end and set them on the table. All right, now the figures are getting a little bit smaller. I think next up is the Megaraptor figure in the bright red and blue and a little bit of tan right along its face. And this figure is cool because it actually has an action when you press down on its back. It has a chomping action. Here is, I believe it's pronounced the Dryptosaurus. And a cool new feature that Mattel is putting on these toys is this little slide. It's like a thing that swings back and forth, and it actually swings their head back and forth and opens their mouth too, which is pretty cool. Now let's set it down right next to the Megaraptor. Next is the Hammond Collection Baryonyx figure. This one comes in the gray dark blue with the yellow striping. And like all the Hammond Collection figures, is super posable and really cool. Let's put this down right at the end. Here we've got another Hammond Collection figurine. This is the Parasaurolophus. It's got some pretty bright coloring and of course is super posable and adjustable as well. Next is the bright Ichthyovenator. It looks kind of like a Spinosaurus because it has the big spine on its back and a long and narrow snout, but it has a super bright and much larger tail and is a lot smaller than a Spinosaurus, I think. So let's go ahead and put this down right next to the Parasaurolophus. Here we've got a huge Sinoceratops figurine with some bright yellow coloring around its all black eyes and the yellow coloring right on its tail as well. And like many of these other figures, it has the action that when you press down on its back, it lifts up its head. Let's see, next up in size is this Triceratops figure in the green and brown coloring. Let's put this at the very end. Oh, you know what? It looks like we're out of space at the very end though. So let's create a new row in the front, right up here. We've got another Triceratops figure next, but this one is from the Hammond Collection. So compared to this other Triceratops figure right here, you can see that this one has a lot more detailing and differencing in the color, because this one basically has two different colors. This one kind of fades into all sorts of other different colors. And of course, is a lot more posable as well. Next up is the Iguanodon figurine in the tan and darker brown on top with the striping. Let's set down this Iguanodon right next to the Triceratops. Now we're down to the really small ones. So let's start with this brand new one that I bought. This is the Geniodectes Cirrus dinosaur. All right, this dinosaur is pretty brightly colored. It's got a dark gray body, but then it has this super bright coloring along its leg, its neck, its face, and the super bright red on top. And this is the Extreme Battle Damage edition, so you can click it open and closed with that button on the top. All right, let's put this Geniodectes down right next to the Iguanodon. We've got a few more Extreme Battle Damage dinosaurs right here that are the same size. This first one is a Velociraptor, and I've also got an Atrociraptor figure. And they both have that button on the top that activates the battle damage on both sides of its body. Let's set these down next in line. I've got a couple more Atrociraptor figures right here. These are the non-battle damage versions. I've got an orange one with the tan striping, and then of course the white with brown striping, just like the giant super colossal version. Let's get this first Atrociraptor down, and the second one. Here is another Pyroraptor. This is a pretty small figure, and this one actually has the extreme battle damage on the side as well. Check that out, it's pretty cool. It's got the same classic red and black coloring along its body. And let's set it down right next to the white Atrociraptor. This next figure, I believe, is called the Moros Intrepidus. It's got some pretty unique green and orange coloring. It's got the light green eyes, some pretty cool feathering and detailing all over its body. And let's set it down as the next smallest dinosaur. All right, now we're getting down to the real small dinosaurs. These are both Dimetrodons, and their spines make them look really tall, but actually their bodies are really short. This first brown Dimetrodon is a normal one, doesn't have any special features, so we'll put that next in line. But this other Dimetrodon actually has battle damage on the side like many of these other small figures, which is pretty cool. So let's set that down right there. And here are our last two dinosaurs. We've got a Miragaia dinosaur with the huge spikes on the side, and we've also got a Therizinosaurus figure, which is really small but still has the giant claws and the classic coloring. All right, let's set these down. Looks like we have just enough space. The first figure is this giant Tyrannosaurus Rex. It's got a dark green body with the yellow underbelly and the black top and a button that activates the jaw. This figure is the Dino Tracker series Endoraptor. Check it out. And there's a button on its back that activates the jaw too. Here is the Camp Cretaceous Spinosaurus. This figure is ginormous, and it's got the button at the top of its head to activate the jaw. Over here we've got another Tyrannosaurus Rex figure. This one's a little bit smaller. It's got the brown coloring and the jaw attack button. This is the Dino Tracker's Sinotyrannus figure. It's got two buttons on its back, one to activate the jaw and one to activate the tail. Here is the Suchomimus figure with the dark blue and yellow coloring. It's got the big spine running down its back and an attack button for its jaw. Here is an old Jurassic World figure. This one was actually custom painted to be red and black, and it has an action button on its back to activate the jaw. This is the Carcharodontosaurus figure with the blue, orange, and brown coloring. This is the Albertosaurus figure in the green and orange coloring, and it has an attack button on its tail to operate the jaw. Next up is the Sound Surge Tyrannosaurus Rex from Jurassic World Dominion. Here's another Dino Trackers figure. This is the Diabloceratops. Check out that awesome red coloring and this action button that moves its head. This Pteranodon figure, I believe, is part of the Amber collection. It actually has rubberized wings, so it feels really realistic. This is the Rowdy Roars Carnotaurus figure. It's got the classic coloring for a Carnotaurus and an action button for chomping. Here is the gigantic Tracker Stegosaurus. It comes with this cool backpack feature, and it has two buttons on its back that swing the tail up and down and back and forth. Here is a classic Baryonyx figure with the reflective blue coloring on the top of its head. Next up, we've got a Cryolophosaurus figure in the bright yellow coloring with the brown and orange detailing. This figure right here is a Spinosaurus. This is a basic figure, so there's not a whole lot you can do with it, but you can move its arms, its legs, and its tail. Here from Jurassic World Dominion is an Iguanodon figure. It's got the soft tan coloring and an attack button when you press down on its back. This figure is a Kentrosaurus. It looks quite a bit like a Stegosaurus, but it's got these huge spikes on the side that you can swing back and forth. This figure, I believe, is called an Edmontosaurus. It's got some pretty cool coloring, and you can use the tail to control the head. Next up, we've got a basic Velociraptor figure in the orange color. You can move its arms, its legs, and its tail. Here is the dark green Ceratosaurus figure. It has a slide lever action on its back to activate the sound effects and its chomping action. This is a Triceratops figure in the brown, blue, and dark blue coloring. And on this figure, you can move the tail to move the head around. Here is an older and pretty rare Jurassic World figure. This is a hybrid Tyrannosaurus and Dilophosaurus. And check out that super bright coloring. Up next, we've got a Sinoceratops figure in the soft green coloring. And this figure features the tail that you can use to move the head around. This next figure is an Allosaurus in the gray and yellow coloring, and it has an attack button on its back to chomp its jaw open and closed. Here's a dinosaur figure that I don't have that many of. This is a Concavinator. It's got a huge spine on its back that actually you can press to swing its tail back and forth. Plus, there's an action button on the front of its back to chomp its jaw open and closed. Here is a Pteranodon figure with foldable wings. And when it's fully expanded, it's probably over a foot long. Plus, there's a button on its back to flap its wings back and forth. Here is a miniature Indominus Rex figure with a little bit of battle damage on its side. I've also got this older Jurassic World Allosaurus figure, and it looks quite a bit different from the new Allosaurus figures that Mattel is releasing. Up next is a miniature Dilophosaurus figure with the purple and some bright yellow, red, and orange. This is a Moros Intrepidus figure from Jurassic World Dominion. It's got the green, orange, and white body. Here is a Velociraptor Beta figure. It's got the classic blue stripe down both sides, and you can move its arms, its legs, and its tail too. Next, I've got a battle damage Atrociraptor figure. Check it out, you can turn on and off the battle damage with the click of a button. Here is a Pachycephalosaurus figure in the orange and green coloring, and it has an action. We press down on the tail and it headbutts. Check out this crazy looking dinosaur. I actually can't remember the name of it, so let me know in the comments below if you know what it is. Here is a super bright Velociraptor figure with the red and the green stripes on top. Plus, it's actually spring-loaded. Up next, I've got a Zunoceratops figure with the green and dark blue coloring. Check out those huge horns on the top of its head, too. Here's another spring-loaded Velociraptor. This one is brown, though. Up next is a small Parasaurolophus figure. And actually, what comes with this figure is a Dr. Ian Malcolm figure. This is a Dimetrodon figure with a huge bright orange spine all the way down its back. This figure is the baby Brachiosaurus with the light green and darker green coloring on top. Here I've got a Monolophosaurus figure with the brown and gray detailing. From Jurassic World Dominion, this is another Atrociraptor figure. This one has the orange and the tan striping. I've also got a miniature Pyroraptor figure here. This one has the classic red and black coloring, along with the feather texture along all of its body. I've also got some more miniature Velociraptor figures in here. This first one has an action button on its back to swing its arms back and forth. And I've also got this bright yellow and brown Velociraptor figure too. It's got some battle damage right there on the side. This unusual figure is a Minmi dinosaur. It's got the spikes all the way down its back and on top of its head. This next figure is a baby T-Rex, and it comes with an action. When you move its tail, it chomps its jaw open and closed. And here we've got a miniature Pteranodon figure. Plus it has an action button on its back to flap its wings. Let's open up some brand new ones next. Let's see what this one is. These are a bunch of uncaged, wild pop-ups. First up, we've got Velociraptor Blue. Next up is a Dilophosaurus. There's also a Carnotaurus. And best of all, a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Next up, I've got a new Jurassic World Dominion Triceratops figure. Let's check it out. This Triceratops has the soft green body with the darker green and the orange in the front. Let's move on to our second bin here. This figure is the Siamosaurus from Jurassic World Dominion. It's got a button right on its tail to activate the jaw. Up next is the Ankylosaurus from Jurassic World Dominion. It has a super long neck and an action button to activate the jaw. Now here is a really cool looking T-Rex. This is a custom colored T-Rex to look like fire. And of course, it's got the button at the top of its head to open and close its jaw. Here is the Scorpius Rex figure from Camp Cretaceous. It's got 2 action buttons, one to activate its jaw and one to activate its arms. This is a battle damage baryonyx figure. You can check out that battle damage on its neck and on its leg, and it has an action button on its back for chomping. This interesting looking dinosaur is an Amargospinus. This dinosaur also has a long neck and some amazing looking spines on its back. Here is the Jurassic World Dominion T-Rex with the Battle Damage Edition. You can click the battle damage on and off just with the button on top. Here's a vintage Jurassic World figure. This one is actually a hybrid T-Rex. I think it's mixed with a Spinosaurus. Check it out. It's got some spines that pop out right at the top of its back. Next up, we've got the amazing Therizinosaurus from Jurassic World Dominion. You can use the tail to swivel its body around and use the action button on its tail to open and close the jaw. Next up, we've got a Stegosaurus figure in the light blue-green color. Plus, it has an action button. When you press down here, it swings its tail back and forth. Here's one of the largest Atrociraptor figures that I have. This one comes in the classic white with brown striping. I've got another extreme battle damage T-Rex here, but instead of battle damage shown right here, there's actually painted battle damage all over its body. Next up, I've got a Sarcosuchus figure. This dinosaur is really long and short, and you can use the tail to control the head. Here's another T-Rex figure. This one is in a soft brown with darker brown along the top, and of course the action button at the top of the head to operate the jaw. Next up, this figure is the Giganotosaurus. It has 2 action buttons, one to swing its torso, and one to open and close the jaw. This is the Indoraptor with the gold stripe and the black body, and it is a very posable dinosaur figure. This is the basic Velociraptor blue figure. You can move its arms, its legs, and its tail, and of course it's got the awesome iconic coloring. From the Hammond collection here, we've got the Baryonyx figure. It is very posable, and it's got some awesome coloring too. Here's a crazy looking dinosaur. This is a special edition Ankylosaurus figure. It actually has a removable shell. I've also got the regular edition Ankylosaurus as well. This figure is from Jurassic World Dominion. This is the Sound Surge Giganotosaurus figure. Check it out, it's another Sarcosuchus figure, but this one has some different coloring with the purple, orange, red, and blue. Here is another Ceratosaurus figure, but this one is in the brown and orange coloring. Let's check out that chomping action. Here is a vintage Jurassic World Mosasaurus figure. It's a lot smaller than the figures that are coming out with now, and it's got some battle damage that you can open and close right on the side. Next up is one of the largest winged dinosaurs. This is the Quetzalcoatlus. This figure has 2 action buttons, one to flap the wings and the other to open and close the mouth. This figure is super old. This is a Jurassic Park Spinosaurus figure. Here are a few small figures. These are both Gallimimuses. I've got another Dimetrodon figure in here. This one has an action. When you press down on its tail, it opens and closes its jaw. This winged figure is a Dimorphodon. Check out those fiery wings. From Camp Cretaceous, we've got a baby Ankylosaurus Bumpy figure. This next figure is from Jurassic World Dominion. This is a Miragaia. Check out those huge spikes coming out of its shoulders. Next up, we've got another classic Ceratosaurus figure. This one has the yellow, black, and red coloring. Here's another dinosaur with some huge spikes coming out of its back. This is a Sauropelta. This next little dinosaur, I believe, is called a Coelurus. It's got a tan body with some brown and some blue detailing. Over here, we've got some Monolophosaurus figures, one in a soft green color, and it's got some battle damage on the side, and one in a dark blue with some tan coloring. I've also got some more Velociraptor figures in here. I've got a Velociraptor Beta figure. Here's another spring-loaded, super bright Velociraptor figure. And a dark green Velociraptor in the stealth crawling pose. This next figure is a Carnotaurus, and this one is from Jurassic World Dominion. It's pretty unique because it's got the dark green body with the orange detailing, and it's also got a broken horn on the top of its head. Here is a Stygimoloch figure. It's got some gray and some dark blue coloring and some huge spikes coming out of its head. Plus, this figure has an action. When you press down on its tail, it activates the head buddy. Here we've got another aquatic dinosaur. I believe this one is called a Plesiosaurus, and it has one action button on its back to flap its flippers. And last of all, we've got a baby Triceratops figure in the light green coloring and some battle damage on the side that you can open and close. First, let's check out this huge Indominus Rex figure. I think this figure is the largest Predator figure that I have aside from the super colossal figures. This figure has the typical Indominus Rex coloring that you see in the movies. It's got the gray all over its body with some brown detailing on the top and around its eyes too. And it comes with action buttons, one for the arms and one for the jaw. I believe this figure is the epic Roarin' T-Rex. This figure has some of my favorite coloring and detailing along its whole body, and my favorite part is that you can use the tail to twist its neck and to move it up and down, and a button to control its jaw to make it look really lifelike. Hiding back here, we've got a huge Spinosaurus figure. This is almost as big as the Indominus Rex figure, but I think a little bit smaller. Still really epic though. It's got the tan body with the red spine and a narrow and very long snout. Over here, we've got another T-Rex figure, but this one is different. It is the extreme battle damage T-Rex. It's got totally different coloring with the gray detailing on the top and the light underbelly and brown on the sides. And of course, it's got the special ability that you can turn the battle damage on and off with the click of a button. Plus, with this figure, there's no button to control the jaw, but you can actually just open its mouth and keep it open for posing. Before we keep going with this bin, I've actually got some brand new ones from Camp Cretaceous that we're gonna open up and check out. This first one is the Scorpius Rex Danger Pack. First, let's check out the Scorpius Rex figure. This has some similar coloring as the other Scorpius Rex figures that I have. You'll see later on in the video, but it is actually a dark green. The other Scorpius Rex figures I have are just black. It's got the yellow underbelly, of course, and the poisonous quills on its tail. And there's no action button, but it is pretty adjustable. You can move its legs and its arms. You can adjust its neck, and of course, open and close the mouth. And those are some pretty crazy looking teeth too. And the other two pieces that come in the set are Kenji in the blue sweater and the sphere that they can ride in. You can actually plop them down in there. It secures them in so they won't go flying around. Then you can close it up. Bingo! And then even as it spins, they stay upright. So you can actually roll this thing around and have the Scorpius Rex chase after it. How cool is that? It's a full playset. Here is another brand new Camp Cretaceous figure that I'm adding to my collection. This is Velociraptor Delta. This figure is the exact same size as many of the other Camp Cretaceous and Jurassic World Velociraptor figures. It's got some pretty cool coloring. It's like a dark green blue with the black stripes on top. And this figure actually comes with a special feature. There is a button on its back that you can use for slashing. Next up, we've got the Carnotaurus figure. Comes with sound effects as well as you can hear. It's got the dark brown body with some black detailing along the top, a super bumpy texture along its skin, the two big horns. It's got some yellow eyes, a huge set of teeth, and the action button to control the head. Next up, we've got a Ceratosaurus figure. This figure has a gray-brown body. It's got some darker brown detailing, and of course the bright red along its back and its head. It's got the white horn and an action button to control the jaw. Way down here, we've got another Scorpius Rex figure. This figure is larger than the one that I just opened up, and as you can see, it does have the darker body. It is not dark green, but instead is like a very dark blue and black along the top. Plus, this figure does have action buttons. The first button on its back controls the jaw, and the second button on its back controls the arms. Plus, the tail is actually spring-loaded, so you can swing it back and forth for hitting other dinosaurs. This is an Albertosaurus. It's got the dark green body with the orange detailing all the way up to its head. You can move its arms, you can move its legs, and its tail swivels back and forth to swivel the head. Next up is a big old Baryonyx figure. This figure is mostly green. It's got some darker green along its back and some brown that goes all the way up to its head. And it's got a slide lever action to control the jaw and sound effects. This is a Cryolophosaurus figure. It is dark blue with red and orange detailing along its neck and head. You can manually open and close the mouth, and the rest of its body parts are movable as well. And the tail actually controls the head. This is a Carcharodontosaurus. It's got the tan body with orange and brown detailing, and it's a pretty big figure and pretty adjustable. You can move the arms, legs, and tail, and it's got an action button on its back to control the chomping. This is a Sarcophagus figure. It looks quite a bit like an alligator, so I wouldn't be surprised if they're related, but it's got some much more interesting coloring than most alligators. It's got a light blue-gray body with some purple along the top and some orange and red detailing on the side. And look at all those spikes that line its back, from the top all the way to the bottom of its tail. And with this figure, you can use the tail to move its head around in a super realistic way. Here is an Allosaurus figure. These are some pretty epic looking dinosaur figures. It's got the tan body with two tones of blue, light blue on the face and back, and dark blue along the bottom of its back and its legs too. This figure is fully posable. You can move it around and adjust its arms, and it actually comes with two action buttons. One to control the jaw, and one to control the arms. Next up is another Baryonyx figure with different coloring. It has the green body once again. It's got some lighter coloring along the bottom of its neck, and two different tones of brown on its back. You can see the light brown along the bottom and the dark brown along its neck. And once again, light brown on the top of its head that encapsulate its yellow eyes. And let's not forget the button on its back to control the jaw. Plus, the rest of its limbs are adjustable and posable as well. This is a Monolophosaurus with the dark green-brown coloring and the yellow detailing all along its back and the orange detailing right along its nose and head. And let's check out those green eyes too. It's got some tiny little eyes. And with this figure, you can actually use the tail to open and close its jaw. Here is a Velociraptor figure. I think this might be Velociraptor Charlie. I can't remember, I get confused. But it's got the green body with the darker green detailing along its back and its head. It's got the yellow eyes. You can manually open and close the jaw, and the rest of its limbs are posable and movable too. Here is another Monolophosaurus figure. It is a very dark blue color. It's got some tan detailing along its back that goes all the way up to its head. This figure also has some yellow eyes and a huge set of teeth, and its whole body is fully posable as well. You can move its neck, you can move it side to side, you can move the arms, legs, and tail too. I've got a few Dimorphodon figures in here too. This first one is a dark green. It has some red and yellow detailing along the bottom of its wings. I've also got a bright red Dimorphodon with some fiery detailing along the bottom of its wings, which is pretty cool. This is probably my favorite Dimorphodon figure. And I've also got this gray Dimorphodon with a little bit of darker coloring along its back and the maroon or purple detailing along the bottom of its wings. This is a water dinosaur, and if I remember correctly, it is a Plesiosaurus. It's got a pretty adjustable body. You can move the neck up and down, as well as up here. You can open and close the mouth. Check out all those teeth. And it's got an action button on its back to move its flippers. Check out this next Monolophosaurus figure. It has some light brown coloring along most of its body, It's got the gray feet, which is a cool feature, as well as the gray detailing along its back, neck, and the top of its head. And it's got those huge set of teeth once again. Of course, we can't forget Velociraptor Blue with the iconic blue stripe down both sides of its body. This figure is fully posable as well. You can move the legs, the arms, and even open and close the jaw. Here is a Dilophosaurus figure. It is a light gray color. It's got some red detailing along its frills and on the crown on the top of its head. And the best part is that the tail actually opens its jaw and its frills. That's really cool. Next up, I believe this is called a Proceratosaurus figure. It's got a blue and brown body and some bright orange coloring right along the top of its eye. This figure is fully posable as well. You can move the arms, the legs, you can twist the tail, and of course open and close the jaw manually. This is a Coeloris figure. It stands on 2 feet but looks quite a bit different from most of the other figures that I have. It has the tan and brown body. It's got some awesome blue detailing along the top of its head. You can manually open and close the jaw, and it is fully posable with the arms, legs, and tail as well.
Want to see more dino videos? Click the subscribe button now.